Hi everybody, this is Jimmy Does Knitting and welcome to episode 7. I'm joining you here from my floor in my upstairs of my apartment in Amsterdam, and let's talk about the last 2 weeks of knitting. So, we're trying some things here. I have a light now. We're going to slowly upgrade this podcast and try to do something a little nicer. I'm going to get a new camera sort of thing. We'll see. I still want to keep it fun and effortless, but I think we all deserve a little bit more quality in our life. I'm also drinking out of what we call the Polish mug. I don't know where this came from. It came with the boyfriend. It didn't come with me. But Rhubarb coffee. This morning, it's bright and early. The time changed. I had a COVID shot, so I took an allergy pill, and it just knocked me out. Slept for like forever. So strong coffee is needed. But it's a beautiful day here, and I'm gonna do yoga soon, so we're filming this early in the morning. Hopefully we'll get up more in the afternoon, and then I can do some things with that. But yes, we have lots to talk about. I've learned a ton this week, and I wanted to share 5 things that I've learned with you. One being this sweater. So this is an old sweater. I don't know if you can see it because it's black, right? Surprise, surprise, I'm wearing black. This is a self-designed sweater. It's a Gamze sweater I made out of traditional Dutch patterns that have from fishing villages. I wanted something simple, but I wanted something with a little bit of light texture. Let me get a little closer and see if we can see this. So there's a little bit of ribbing, and then there's this pattern, whatever it is, and some seed stitched on the side. It's a self-designed sweater, and it's made from Rowan yarns felted tweed held together with a Holst Supersoft ink, and it's probably my favorite sweater. And I wanted to wear this because it was not my favorite sweater. I did the neck. It was like almost like a boat neck. It turned out to be. This yarn really expanded and stretched a lot. And I used the traditional patterns, so I used like really old patterns that somebody collected from these fishermen, and the proportions were not great. It was basically like a third, which I think is pretty standard. Like a third of the neck is, the third of the stitches is the neck, and then the other third and third are the shoulders. But the shoulder actually ends right here because this is a drop shoulder design. And so the neck was really pulling out and pulling down, and I didn't like it. And I had wanted to do a folded over neckband, but then I knit part of it and I didn't. So we fixed this. We tore out the neckband. I've become a lot more confident with surgery, which we'll go over for a couple of things later. I knit it a little bit longer, and this time I folded it over because I wanted something a little tighter around the neck. And then I also wanted a folded over neckband, which is something that I've been seeing a lot, and it seems a little bit more cozy. Plus it adds a bit more structure here in the neckline, which is really good. I did not block this. Part of the problem last time is I blocked it and it expanded, of course, but it expanded more than I thought. So I didn't block it blocked the neck per se. I might steam block it. And then I also went through with the Holst, and I reinforced the neckband because I made it very tight and it can barely fit over my head. But now I love this sweater even more, and it's a perfect fit. It's exactly what I wanted to do. I would say next time I make this sweater for myself, I changed needle sizes because the cast on was super tight, which I don't know, I have an issue with. I stretched it out a lot with blocking, but I would change needle sizes to what I wanted to, and then knit it with like a gusset here because they like really tight sleeves, but it bunches a little bit in the pit. So maybe this sweater will come into a different version at one point, but for now it's just a one-off for me, and I really like it. I really like it. I keep on touching it because it has a nice texture. It's everything I like in a sweater is like a subtle texture. It's easy to do, interesting yarn. It's not just stockinette, and it's not like some crazy like all over cables. It was just every 6th row or something, doing the repeat and calling it a day. It was really nice. So that's this. So first thing I learned, folded over neckband. First project we'll go over is the Slade cardigan by Wang. This is a Brooklyn tweed pattern. This is for my dad. And I put buttons on and I knit the collar since last episode. I got these buttons from the market down the street, Albert Cat Markt. And they're nice little wooden ones that I sewed on with some yellow yarn that I had. It's the yarn was Drops Big Merino, and it is a superwash 100% wool yarn, and it expanded a ton, which I knew that it would, not when I bought the yarns to do the project, but when I was like listening to podcasts and stuff afterwards, like, oh yeah, superwash expands, and it's like, okay, how much is it going to expand? And the answer is a ton. It's really nice. It's super cozy and fluffy, but I didn't swatch properly or something, so it grew a lot, which for like the body and the length is not such a big deal, but my dad is not the same proportions as me, and he has very short arms, and the sleeves grew by probably about like 4 inches. It's quite a bit. So I already knit them like 2 inches shorter because this man has like tiny arms. Not T-Rex arms, but something close to it. And I tried it on myself, and they were like past my fingertips, and I was like, this is not going to do it, and I can't like give this sweater and tell him to roll it up. So I did the sweater surgery. I put a lifeline in right about here, and I cut off about 6 inches worth of yarn, and I unraveled it, and then I put the stitches on a needle, and then I re-knit going the opposite way around. So these were knit from bottom up, and then I just took the cuffs and I knit from top down with the Italian Bindoff, and it seems to work. It's nice. The ribbing is not as long as the hem, which it was supposed to be, but to get the right length, it's fine. Also, it was the superwash, so it expanded. I washed this in the washer. It's the first one I've ever done in the washer, because I knew it would be thick, and I wanted it to spin out the water for it. But it looks all right. I did not realize, and I learned a bit about shoulder seaming, which I did, is I knit the sleeves in the round from the bottom up, and then I attached them. And what I really should have done is knit it like in the pattern, which was knitting flat. And then I would have attached them here and then around and then sewn up from the sleeve bottom and down here. And that would have made a little bit nicer of a transition. The sleeves, they sit well, but especially here, they look like a little bunchy. It doesn't look great. And, but I think it will be fine. As I said, it doesn't really fit me, but I'm sure that it will fit my dad, and especially when he wears it, it will mold to his body, and then he can do whatever with it. So I think it should be fine. The same thing with the shawl collar. I knit this on a size 4mm needle, and I used 5.5 for everything else. Everybody's saying, hey, you have to do it in a smaller needle because it expands and it droops, and I didn't want it to. I actually had to really stretch it out to get it where it is, and it's a little shorter. So I'm hoping that that's true, and that over time it droops a little bit, but not a whole lot. But I tried it on. It's super warm. It can go over other things. It's my first cardigan, and I'm very excited about it. So thing number 2 that I've learned, sleeve surgery. And then I also did, it's my first cardigan. It's my first buttonhole. It's my first sleeve surgery, yeah. But it's a really nice thing, and I need to send this off this week because, I don't know, I haven't worked on this for very long, but I have a bunch of stuff to send over to America, and then what I do is I knit a bunch of hats on the train, and I'm going to offer those to family and friends and just send a big bag of stuff. So instead of just one garment, they get, a garment and some accessories, which is really nice. But I didn't want to work on that. So I was like, you know what I want to do? I want to knit hats. And not only do I want to knit hats, I want to learn Intarsia. So I found these 4 colors in my stash. This is the CosyFine crochet yarn. I have no idea what the colors are. They're not labeled anymore. And I used the Quadrant cap design from James and Watts. And I learned Intarsia. It's really good. I'm a big color guy. I don't wear a lot of color, but I like texture and I like using color. I'm not a big color work guy, but I think that learning Intarsia or figuring, stripy shirts or something will really be something as part of my designs in my practice in the future. This was a really good pattern. It was nice, and I think this would be a really good go-to pattern even if you just have one color. It's just the way it looks. It's nice. I knit the longer one, so it can go more over the ears like this. But what I really like to do is I think it looks super hipster if you take it and you roll it up. And you go, well, if I faff around with it enough, and you wear it like this. It's like super millennial, Portland, whatever. The pattern is really nice. I think it's well crafted. It's well designed. It was fun to work on, and I'm glad I did it. I will not be wearing this, but I'm tempted to almost knit one in black so I can wear it like this, or maybe for my boyfriend. I don't know. We'll see what scrap yarn it is. But this is the Quadrant hat by James M. Watts and CosyFine yarn, and it's wonderful. I really like it. It's super 90s. Somebody will enjoy it, but it's not for me. I will knit that again though, probably. So that was number 3 that I've learned. Another thing I did was this. I saw this on some dude on Instagram. This is the, my notes are right here. The Korshavn sweater Junior by Tonje Hodne. And it's just this basket weave pattern, and it is amazing. It's so super squishy. I was like, oh, maybe I'll knit it for myself, but I've been looking for something to knit for my nephew. And I was like, I have to do this. There's a whole saga with the yarn, which we will get into. But look at this. It's amazing. It's really good. It feels super warm. It's squishy. It's fantastic. I'm tempted because if you remember in a couple episodes ago, I bought a sweater's quantity of, Drops Big Merino in black, and I might make one of these for myself. I usually get excited about an idea, and then I stop for whatever, and then I'm like, I don't know, we'll see. But this one's like, I still think that I might do it, which is good because I can use up stash and I can cast on it anytime. This is the way it's designed and the way that it's crafted is something very much of how I would do a pattern. So I really appreciate that, and the texture and the stitch are just fun to knit, and it's really good. I, with the Yarn Saga, ended up just going to a place down the street, which was a general craft store that had like cheap yarns. And I wanted to do green because the nephew's a little ginger boy, and I thought it would be cute, but like they had a worsted weight green, and then they didn't, and whatever, and then I didn't like the colors, and the colors they did like, they didn't have the quantities of, so I picked up this Finnish yarn. It's Panduro yarn, pure sock, 100 grams. It is 18 stitches for 10 centimeters or 4 inches. It's 75% wool and 25% polyamide, and 100 grams equals 200 meters. It's washer friendly, which is important for children. And so I went with that. It might be a bit scratchy. I think it's a little bit rough. It's definitely more so than like regular baby yarns that you would do. I'm a little worried about the cuffs and the collar. I'm going to put this in the actual wash, and I bought some fabric softener so I can put that in as well, and hopefully it will beat it up a little bit and soften it and make it a little bit more wearable, and then we'll bring this to Christmas essentially when we have it. It's sizes 1 to 3, and he turns 1 today. tomorrow, the day after. He's born either the day before or the day after Halloween, and I'm filming this on the 30th. And yeah, but this was so much fun to knit. It took less than 2 of these 100-gram balls, and it said that it would take 300 grams. So either my tension's really off or not. I don't really know. My tension's actually really loosened up a lot. It's more standard of like what I can get with the recommended needles and the recommended stitches per inch or centimeter, but I don't know. I don't know. Another thing I learned is this had a really good tip for the Italian bind-off. So if we look closer at this, I did the Italian bind-off, this one first, and this was the way that I typically do it, where you just have the knit purl of your ribbing, and then you sew it in. But with this one, they said on the pattern, which I don't think that this is anything revealing about the pattern, but do a row where it's knit one, slip the purl with yarn in front, and keep on going, and then the next one is knit the purl and slip the knits. And what this does is it creates, you knit that row twice and it creates a double knit fabric essentially. So when you sew on the Italian bind off, it's more of like a folded over part. So instead of like this and binding off, you have like a folded over, and then the bind off creates this, and it's a little bit of a smoother edge. I don't know if you can even see it. I can, and I will be doing everything from this way going forward because I think it's so much cleaner and it looks nice and it matches more of the Italian cast on that I do. But the tutorial I've been following for forever never said that setup row. It just said like finish your knit one per once. So that was another new technique I've learned. I really like this. I did a folded over collar for this one. This is the one that did the folded over collar first. I finished this, and then the rest of the day I was like, oh, I have to do this on my Dutch fisherman sweater. It's super cute, super fluffy. I highly recommend for a child knit. It was so much fun. If you don't like purling, don't do this, but we're not that type of podcast. I actually really enjoy purling, and I have some ideas for a sweater which will be purl heavy, which we will talk about. I need to swatch this weekend. I started knitting because I love cables, and I'm like, I have this idea for like the ultimate, like most obnoxious cable sweater, but it would also be super simple to do, and I think it would be a good design. So I need to do some swatching this week, and then I might cast that on next week. We'll have to see. I'm going to try to do something with both worsted weight and fingering weight yarns and seeing how that goes. So I really do need to test this out before I start knitting a whole sweater. That's just not going to work. But anyway, back to the Korshavn sweater. Do it. Make it. Support this designer. It's fantastic. I might make another one for myself. Coffee break. Okay, so I did 4 finished objects. I didn't want to finish the Slade. I don't know why. That one was a bit of a slog. I think it's because I didn't choose the pattern. My dad did. I wasn't tremendously excited about it, but it was nice. I just needed something to knit, but the other ones I think are really nice, and I used that to distract myself. Oh, I have one more finished object. What am I even talking about? Another one is this pattern that I always make. This is the pattern by me, still to be unnamed. It's the very squishy, like diamond twisted stitch one. I wanted to make this for 2 reasons. One, I wanted to see if this really is a 100-gram skein project, which it is. I mean, this is my leftovers from the whole skein. And another is to see how it looked with an I-cord bind off and cast on, which I have never even made before. They look slightly different. Like the bind off is a little bit thicker than the cast on, but that's a new technique I've learned, is both the bind off and the cast on. And I think it looks really nice. I knit this in Malabrigo Rios. I've heard about this so much, especially if you listen to the Pardon My Stash podcast. They really enjoy it. So I was like, I'm going to find some. I'm just going to knit it. I went to Stephen and Penelope they have some. There's another store that has some which I should have gone to, but they were closed because it was Sunday, and this is the Netherlands. And I picked up what they had. They had a very limited palette, so they had some like flesh tones, and then they had some darker ones, and then they had this bright red. And the bright red was speaking to me more than anything else. I wanted to try out the yarn. It is the color of the season. Everybody's like, oh, this burgundy, look at this burgundy. And you know what? Look at this burgundy. It's really nice. So let me put it on. This one's a little bit more, ended up being a little bit more slouchy than the other one. The Malabrigo was a really squishy yarn, which I liked knitting with. And what happened though is it expanded more than I was expecting. It's like a little bit bigger. This is the same stitch count as the yellow one from the We Are Knitters that I made, but it's a little bit bigger, which is fine because it still keeps your neck very warm. It's nice to wear, and it still looks beautiful, and it also expanded a lot. So it's I was expecting more of a squishy fabric, but it went instead of I don't know how you do that. But yeah, it's still nice. I really like it. I'm obsessed with it. It's still squishy. It's still nice. So it expanded more than I wanted to. Of course, it didn't swatch. It's just a cowl. I'm not going to swatch for accessories typically. I should for garments. We'll get to that. But I didn't for this. My one complaint is, and I'm twisting this yarn to try to open it up. So see if we can see this. I don't know if this is going to work or not. But no, it's focusing on my face. No face. The problem that I have with the Malabrigo is the yarn dye did not soak all the way through. And what I mean by that is if you untwist it a bit, which is what I was trying to show you, in some parts, it's white. You see the white wool through there. So, I mean, it adds, this is not a solid red, which I knew it wasn't going to be. It has a little bit of darker red, a little bit of lighter red, but in some spots where the yarn where the yarn undid a little bit, it's like whiter, which makes it a little bit pinky, and I just wish that there was more dye in the yarn, I guess. Yeah, you can see it specifically like here. You see that one right there? It's nice. I like the yarn. I think it would be a good accessory one. I don't know if I'd make a full garment out of it, but it's cool. I like it. I'm glad I finally got to work with it. And yeah, we have a beautiful red cowl that we can do with it. Coffee break time. I have 2 works in progress. I'm going to show you one. One that I have is that cowl that I'm making. It's an affinity cowl. It's black. It's 2 rows knit, 2 rows purl. That's the pattern. And it's boring to show you because it's like, okay, I knit some more on this. Nothing exciting happens. So there's that. And then the next one is Skeindeer Knits had a pattern out. And I found her because of this pattern, which I wanted to make an ugly Christmas sweater. I hope she's not offended by this. I mean, she's never going to see it. But like, I wanted to make an ugly Christmas sweater. When I first started knitting, I was like, I'm going to learn color work and do an ugly Christmas sweater. Well, now's the time. She updated the pattern yesterday, the day before. And there's a new version out, which is basically the same thing, but it's a little bit more refined. And it's a beautiful color work Christmas sweater. I would recommend doing this on a sport weight yarn. I'm using Holst Supersoft, which is a light fingering. I did a gauge swatch where I held it double and it was way too big. So we went with this. So it's a very thin fabric, but it will also plump up. Also, I didn't want to spend a lot of money on this. I think I spent 50 euros for the yarn, and it is so thin that I have like 3 sweaters quantities worth of yarn. I mean, I have this Holst Supersoft. It's all Holst Supersoft. So I did the Ecru. I did a cone because I wanted a cone. I have the clover leaf, and this is what's left over from one 50-gram ball. I have a whole other one of this. And then I bought 3 of these poppy ones, and I don't know if I'm going to use all of them. but we'll see. So this is a 50 gram ball of 287 meters, 314 yards. It's 100% wool. I'm a big fan of the Holst Supersoft, not only because it is inexpensive, but because it actually turns out nice. Like, look at this sweater, it has some in there. And I've used it independently on some things. Once you wash it, you have to wash it good because it has the spinning oil, but it plumps up, it's comfy, and the more you wear it, the better it is. Anyway, back to the pattern. So this is the Festive Yoke Pullover by Skeindeer Knits. And I wanted to modify it heavily, but that's the whole point of the thing, is you can choose different motifs, you can choose different lengths, you can do whatever. It's recommended to do like 2 strands of lace, La Bien-Aimée or Ulysse. I did with 1 strand of Holst, which is a little thin, but I think it works. And I'm only gonna wear this maybe a couple times in the year. It's really like a specific use. It's very only holiday party stuff, but I really like it. I did a snowflake, and then I did a tree, and then I did a snowman, and so that's very exciting. And then I'm gonna knit in white and plain stocking net, and then I'm gonna do another motif, and then the ribbing sleeves, which are going to be plain, and then I want a big turtleneck, which is why this doesn't have a collar and why the collar is really rolling, is because I want to knit the turtleneck last, so I can try it all on, have it fit, and then make the turtleneck the length I want to, because if you do it beforehand, sometimes it sort of rises up as the garment gets heavier. I mean, this is not going to be a heavy garment, but it doesn't fit as well. So that's going to be the last thing we do, and we'll take some good photos of it. I'm very excited. This is a joy to work on. The patterns go fast. It's fun. Like, it's whimsy, it's quirky, it's whatever. It's definitely a product knit, and I have a specific vision for it, but it's also just, for some reason, color work just flies off my needles. It's not my favorite thing to do, but it goes fast because I think it's engaging and you need the next row and all that sort of thing. Yeah, I used a 4.5 millimeter needle on here because I do tend to do a little bit tighter. When I did the Nightbook sweater, my first color work, well, the only other color work that I've done, it suggested a 3.25 millimeter needle, and then went up to 4. So I did the 3.75 here, and then this I did a 4.5. It might be a little too big, if I'm going to be honest. So when we do another motif on the bottom, I'm going to try a 4 millimeter needle. But it looks great, especially on camera. It really looks like it's almost blocked out or something. So yeah, I'm very excited about this. Knit away. It's also relieving to have something that's a light color that I can work in around and stockinette, and I don't have to think about it. I'm trying to make less sweaters for myself, which are always black, and try to make more sweaters for other people because I have too many sweaters now, if I'm going to be honest. I have very, very minimal wardrobe, and since I've started knitting, I've doubled my wardrobe. So Festive Yoke Pullover by Skeindeer Knits. The inside is a complete mess when you look at the floats. I'm not even going to show you. It's bad. But that's my work in progress, and hopefully next 2 weeks I'll have at least the torso done. That seems like a good goal, doesn't it? Yeah, let's try to go with that. Bam. We'll see then. One more coffee break. Last but not least, acquisitions. So, for the basket weave sweater is what we're going to call it. I wanted a green yarn, and so I ordered some yarn, and for some reason I thought that this was the right gauge. I thought it was worsted weight. It's an Aran weight. It is Scrumptious Truly Scrumptious, which in Dutch means little sheep, so it's a local-ish brand. They're cheaper yarns. I think they're really good for crochet. This is a new one of theirs. It's the Truly Scrumptious, which means it's bigger. It's made with recycled plastic bottles. It's 50% recycled polyester and 50% acrylic at 13 stitches per 10 centimeters and 100 grams per 108 meters. So it's very Dutch. I wasn't going to... Oh, and this is the color Green Velvet Cake, color 303. I wasn't going to risk it and make the baby sweater out of this green because it's the wrong size, and I don't know children's clothing size. I didn't really know if the modifications were going to work, and I wanted him to be able to wear it. So I didn't use this, and I need to figure out something to do with this. So I have 8 of these. So I ordered 4, and then the postman messed it up. And so I complained, and they sent 4 over, but then 4 arrived, and then 4 more arrived. So I have 800 grams of Aran weight yarn, which should be able to actually make an adult sweater out of this. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. It's probably something self-designed, maybe a hoodie. I think it would be really good for cables. It's not something I would want to wear. I don't want to wear this fabric on my body. But I think it could actually be something really cool. Maybe I knit up a sample or something. But it's on the cards, and I have a whole sweater's quantity worth of this. And we'll see. It's a new yarn, so if you go on Ravelry, there are like no suggestions for it. I can crochet with this. Maybe make a blanket, maybe make a sweater. I'm not really quite sure. So this is just going to sit for a while and take up room in my stash that I don't have. And we'll see what happens with that. So this is my Scrumptious, truly scrumptious. And that is it. It's a lot of knitting. I did a lot of knitting. Work is still super slow. I'm trying to hustle some stuff up. I'm trying to do a little bit of planning. Clearly not focusing on my hair because this is crazy today. And see where we can take this knitting. I have some plans. Like I said, the next sweater I'm going to make for sure is a self-designed cable knit sweater. I might do a pattern design or like a knitting design course. I think that was something that appealed to me and would actually kick my butt into like doing certain assignments and making connections and stuff like that. So I think that that's something that is in my future, but I'm really dragging my feet on it, and then take this podcast a little bit more seriously and try to upgrade a little bit without killing the bank. So like I looked into some microphones, they're super expensive. Some cameras are also very super expensive. The Crave is like, oh, I just bought a new camera, and I looked up how much it was, and it's like, well, I'm not going to spend that much when only 100 people view my videos. But this is something I enjoy, and I do it for myself. So it's all about how much I want to invest. Regardless, this will be an evolving and changing space, and I'm excited about it. And I think that that's the best we can ask for, and we can see what happens. But yeah, getting some patterns out there. I clearly have the ideas. I just need to make it happen. And yeah, see where it goes, see what happens. I'm really enjoying this, and yeah, we'll go on. What else is happening? Life is pretty boring. It's just been yoga, knitting, boyfriend's out of town, so I bought a bunch of bagels. Nobody cares. Anyway, I hope you guys are all having a good weekend or have a good week, and I'll catch you maybe in the next 2 weeks. We'll see. Right before Thanksgiving? I don't know. We'll see. I'll check you later. Bye.